How to stop overthinking. The thought you just couldn't let go of today has already stolen 3 hours of your life. Overthinking isn't just annoying. Scientists have linked it to anxiety, depression, insomnia, and a measurably shorter lifespan. But here's what nobody tells you: your brain isn't broken. It's actually doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is, that design is about 200,000 years out of date. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you a 4-step framework that rewires how your brain processes uncertainty, and I'll show you the one technique, backed by a 2019 Yale study, that starts working in under 90 seconds. We'll get to that in a moment. Why you overthink? Let's start with why this happens. Your brain has a region called the default mode network, the DMN. It's active when you're not focused on a task. Resting, basically. But here's the problem: the DMN doesn't rest. It replays conversations. It wargames future scenarios. It asks, what if, until 2 a.m. This was useful on the savannah. If you'd made a mistake with a predator, replaying it could save your life tomorrow. But your brain cannot tell the difference between a lion and an unanswered email from your boss. So it treats both with the same threat response. The same cortisol spike. The same hypervigilance. And the more you try to stop thinking about something, the louder it gets. Psychologists call this ironic process theory, but most people just know it as, the more you say don't think about it, the more you think about it. So fighting your thoughts is the wrong move. Here's what actually works. Step 3 of what I'm about to share is the one most people skip, and it's the reason they're still overthinking 5 years from now. Don't skip ahead. The 4-step framework. I call this the STOP framework. Not because it's clever, but because each letter is a literal instruction your brain can execute in the moment. Let's go through each one. Surface the thought. Stands for surface. Most overthinking happens in an abstract fog, half-formed fears, vague dread, worst-case scenarios floating around without structure. The moment you put the thought in writing, you move it from the emotional brain, the amygdala, to the prefrontal cortex. The rational brain. And the rational brain can actually solve problems. So the first move is simple: write the thought down. Not on your phone. On paper. The physical act of writing activates a different cognitive process. It forces the brain to commit the thought into a single, concrete sentence. Write that sentence. Not a paragraph. One sentence. The fog can't survive specificity. Test reality. T stands for test. Now that your thought is on paper, you ask it 2 questions. Question 1, is this thought a fact, or is it a prediction? Most overthinking is built on predictions disguised as facts. He hasn't replied, he's angry with me. That's not a fact. That's a story. Question 2, if the worst case happened, what would I actually do? This is the most underused tool in anxiety management. The brain spirals because it perceives the worst case as unsurvivable. The moment you walk through a practical response, the threat level drops dramatically. Uncomfortable is not the same as unsurvivable. Your brain has been lying to you about that for years. Occupy your motor system. O stands for occupy, and this is the Yale-backed technique I mentioned at the start. A 2019 study from Yale found that repetitive physical movement, walking, folding laundry, washing dishes, significantly reduced rumination compared to sitting still or even meditation in people with high anxiety. Why? Because your motor cortex and your overthinking networks compete for the same cognitive resources. When your motor system is engaged, the DMN, the default mode network that generates all the noise, gets quieter. This is why your best ideas come in the shower. Not because water is magic. Because your hands are busy. So when you feel a spiral starting, don't sit with it. Move your body. A 10-minute walk isn't avoiding the problem. It's giving your brain the conditions it needs to actually process it. Permission to not decide. P stands for permission. Here's the counterintuitive part. Most overthinking is driven by the belief that if you think about it long enough, you'll find certainty. The perfect answer. The guaranteed outcome. But certainty isn't a real destination. It's a moving target your brain invented to feel safe. The research on decision fatigue shows that the more you deliberate on a choice without new information, the worse your eventual decision becomes. After a threshold, around 20 minutes of active rumination, you're not problem-solving anymore. You're just suffering. The most effective thing you can do is give yourself explicit permission to not decide right now. Say that out loud. It sounds simple. It works because it interrupts the urgency signal your brain is sending. The brain is screaming a decide now, but most things don't require a decision right now. And almost nothing is improved by thinking about it for 6 more hours at midnight. The long game, rewiring your default. The STOP framework breaks individual spirals. But if you want to stop being an overthinker at your core, you need to address the root. And the root isn't your thoughts. It's your tolerance for uncertainty. Research from Concordia University found that intolerance of uncertainty is the single strongest predictor of chronic overthinking, stronger than anxiety disorders, stronger than perfectionism, stronger than past trauma. Simply put, overthinkers are people who find uncertainty physically unbearable. So the brain manufactures thinking as a way to generate a feeling of control. The antidote is something called uncertainty exposure, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You deliberately practice sitting with small uncertainties without trying to resolve them. Don't check if your friend read your message. Order something new from a menu without reading every review. Make a minor decision in under 30 seconds and don't second-guess it. These feel trivial. They're not. Every time you survive an unresolved uncertainty, you send a signal to your brain: unknown does not mean dangerous. Over weeks, your baseline tolerance for uncertainty rises. And the spirals start shrinking, not because you got better at stopping them, but because they have less fuel to start. Let's bring it back together. You overthink because your brain is running ancient threat detection software on modern problems. That's not weakness. That's biology. The STOP framework gives you a tool for the moment: surface the thought. Test reality. Occupy your motor system. Give yourself permission to not decide. Uncertainty exposure builds long-term resilience. And the identity shift makes the whole thing stick. You don't need to silence your mind. You just need to stop obeying every thought it generates. If this video helped you, the algorithm is watching, and so is the next version of you that finally stopped spiraling. I'll see you in the next one.